Welcome back to Access Granted, the Financial Education Podcast. I'm CJ Fellini, founder of Noyak Wealth Club and Noyak Investing Club, lifelong financial educator and private investment expert, so they tell me. Today, we're diving into the solo hustle economy with none other than Laura D. Adams, MBA, a true trailblazer in personal finance. If she doesn't mind me aging her a bit, we just had a conversation where she's been podcasting continuously weekly since 2007. Think of that, folks. That is damn impressive. She's the voice behind the Money Girl podcast, which I just referenced, which has racked up over 44 million downloads. If you've ever thought about ditching the 9 to 5 to build your own empire, this is the conversation you're waiting for. Let's jump into solopreneurship. And welcome, Laura.
Thank you so much. It's great to be with you. This is one of my favorite topics. I love talking about small business and solopreneurs, so it's really a pleasure to be with you.
You embody it, don't you?
I love it. I really do.
Okay, great. So let's rewind a bit. Let's go before the specific topic of solopreneurship and the bigger 30,000-foot view of financial literacy. What first sparked your passion for financial literacy, and how did that evolve into a podcasting journey?
It's a great question. It's really nothing I could have ever imagined. I was working in a lot of small businesses myself as an executive for many years. I was a chief operating officer and eventually went back to get my MBA. At that point, I thought I was going to do a lot of corporate finance. And I met a lot of people in my MBA program that were very successful, but they were not doing well with their finances. Many of them were deep in debt. They were struggling with basic personal finance concepts. And it made me realize that I had a lot of knowledge and was ahead of them, not only because it was just my personal interest, but because I had done a lot of entrepreneurial ventures throughout the years, and my parents were both entrepreneurs. So I started to think that maybe personal finance might be an area that I wanted to go into. So in fact, we only had one personal finance course throughout the entire MBA program, which I also thought was a little odd. You know, it seemed to me that we could have all benefited from more personal finance. But fast forward, I graduated, got the degree, and I thought I would really like to begin writing about personal finance, but I didn't really know how to do it. Well, about that time, my husband gave me an iPod Shuffle. Do you remember those little tiny?
Oh, yes, I did. They're that cool navigation circle. Yeah,
tiny
I love
thing.
that.
And so I discovered the world of podcasts through the iPod Shuffle, and I just started downloading them, and I was absolutely addicted to podcasts. And eventually,
by the way, podcasts, the name podcast came from that device.
That's it. Yeah. Absolutely. And so I just started thinking about, well, maybe I could do a podcast, or what could I do to give back to this community of free content creators? How can I give back? I'd been listening and absorbing so much. And I thought, well, maybe I can do a finance podcast. And so I actually started out doing more corporate finance topics. But quickly, the feedback and the questions that I started getting were all about personal finances. So I pivoted over to the personal side. And then fast forward a little bit, I was invited to join the Quick and Dirty Tips podcast network as the host of the Money Girl podcast. So that was in 2008. And as you mentioned, I've been doing it weekly ever since.
Amazing. I mean, the consistency of it is truly amazing. And you mentioned something that I think is also a great jumping off point about the absolute, and I talk about this. In fact, my wife is sick of hearing it. The absolute dearth of financial education. Still, you mentioned as an MBA, you had one personal finance, and that was personal finance course before 2007, because I assume that's when you were doing your MBA before then. Even today, there are only 13 states that mandate 1 hour of personal finance in high school. That's it. The most developed nation has the worst financial literacy in the world. it's mind-boggling to me, and I never get over it. As a DIYer, I thought, well, I'm the last to get financially literate. I had to teach myself, and I was shocked. So anyway, it's interesting that you touched about that, and obviously you fell into the greatest need bucket that there could be in personal finance. So when, more specific now from the macro, when did it click for you that solopreneurship wasn't just about freedom or flexibility, but really a powerful strategy for building long-term wealth in the individual for your listeners?
Yeah, I think I always had very good role models for this. As I mentioned, I had entrepreneurial parents. My husband's parents were also entrepreneurial. So I really saw small business owners, in their day-to-day lives, making it work, the sacrifices that they were making, and also their rewards.
Mhm.
But, when I first started writing books, it was all about personal finance. I really didn't dive into the business aspect until just a few years ago. It was really during COVID that I published my most recent book, Money Smart Solopreneur. And it was because I was getting a lot of questions from people about, how do I start a business? Or I want to make some extra income, but I'm afraid, I don't know what to do. People were asking some very basic questions, and I realized there was just a lot of just a lack of knowledge about how to start, what it involved in terms of paying taxes, your retirement options, et cetera, being an independent contractor versus W-2. So that really got me digging into solopreneurship as I saw that kind of class of business owner growing. And in fact, there are more what they call one-person businesses or solopreneurs than any other type of business in the country.
What do you think about the contention that due to the productivity and the power of AI, that the first billion-dollar one-person unicorn will happen in the next 12 to 18 months? Do you believe
It's
it?
possible. I mean, it certainly is possible. It seems like a lot of revenue for one person, but it is possible. Who would have thought that, there
I
there are
know.
million-dollar businesses that are
Yeah.
one-person businesses. And of course, it depends on how you leverage other freelancers and independent contractors as well. So I love the idea of doing that, not necessarily having to employ people, although there's nothing wrong with employing people if that's
Yeah.
your goal and you really want to scale a business and grow it. But for a lot of people, just getting started, getting their idea off the ground as a solopreneur is a great way to earn extra income and maybe even transition into it full time.
What's the biggest risk you see for solopreneurs when they get started, and how can they prepare for it in advance?
Yeah, I think one of the biggest mistakes that solopreneurs make, especially in the beginning, is really trying to do everything themselves. They're looking at doing all their bookkeeping themselves. They're looking at, answering legal questions themselves, not getting help, investing a little bit of money to get some help up front. Most folks will earn some money and then be totally unaware that they were supposed to be paying taxes throughout the year. And so those estimated taxes creep up on them. And then the very first year of business, they find out, oops, I owe a big amount to the government, or it's a great problem to have, right? If you've earned some
Mhm.
income, have that tax to owe, but they're not prepared for it financially. So then year two, they're starting that year in the hole because
Mm.
they've got this debt that they're going to have to pay off. So getting some help and understanding what's your probable tax liability, what is your potential other liability as well, what insurance do you need to stay safe. Just getting some help from experts in the beginning is an area that a lot of people don't do and really will pay off if they make a little investment in that upfront.
Interesting. Two boring topics: tax optimization and insurance. I don't ever wake up wanting to talk about them, but of course, literally the most important. And it never occurred to me what a blind spot that uh, keeping up with your tax liabilities, understanding it, or even considering not a fractional CFO. You probably don't need that unless you become that billion-dollar, that billion-dollar one-person unicorn. But some people take that word solo very literally, and they have to do everything. And I think the first tip, which is great, is get some tax help, get a part-time fractional bookkeeper or a part-time bookkeeper, and focus on, unless your business is filing taxes, focus on your business and prioritize insurance and tax optimization, but also outsource it. What's the one thing you wish you knew when you first started working for yourself? Because you are, maybe I don't know, are you a solopreneur content creator, albeit a very successful and consistent one?
I am a solopreneur. And I think in the beginning, when I started, I had this idea that I really needed to grow and I really needed to scale and I, really needed to have a bunch of people. And it is something that doesn't necessarily bring me joy in my business. And maybe I like wearing a lot of hats. So I am that person that kind of enjoys doing my bookkeeping and keeping track of those things, because that's my field, that's my area of expertise.
Okay.
But if it's not your area of expertise, absolutely get help. But for me, I think I had an idea that I really needed to grow and scale. I finally kind of made peace with the fact that I'm okay being small. I'm making the revenue that I want. I'm happy with the lifestyle that I have above all. So for me, I consider my solo business almost a lifestyle business. And that may not be everyone's goal or desire, but if it is, if you really want to keep things simple, you can do that as well.
So when you started, did you say, I want to prioritize lifestyle, or I want to prioritize building an empire?
Yeah, at first I thought I've got to grow. I've got to grow revenue. I've got to scale. And when I realized really what that entailed in terms of just additional management of folks and, the additional sort of work involved in that, I realized, I can work as a solopreneur, scale it down, have the income, the net income that I want, and really have a little bit more of a freer lifestyle. So I enjoy a really flexible schedule. And for me, that makes it worthwhile. That's not going to be everybody's goal, but for me, that has brought me a lot of happiness in my business.
Interesting. It really is. I often debate that as I'm a little bit of a type A with OCD, which is a wonderful combination. The empire building versus the sacrifice has always been a big debate, especially I also have 2 children, 3 and 5 now as an old dad. It's become a real difficult discussion about the trade-off. And it really is a trade-off. It's like guns and butter in the economic discussion. You can't have both. Something has to pay for it. And in solopreneurship, it's time. Either you buy time and you scale to a size that's manageable, or you build that empire and scale exponentially, but you won't have the time for your family, right? It really is a trade-off. I don't see any way around it, although some people have tried to hack that. Is that accurate?
I think you're dead right. Absolutely. So we all have to kind of choose our priorities. And as you mentioned, there are different seasons of life where, maybe going hard and growing is right, and others where you would choose to scale back and prioritize your time over revenue. So yeah, it really does come down to what you want out of your business. And so that's another thing to really consider as you start. What are you trying to achieve? Are you trying to just get a little extra income, or are you really trying to take this full time? Are you trying to build something that you will turn around and sell? I've done that too. I've built businesses that I sold. So there are all kinds of different businesses that you can create just based on skills, experience, and then the outcome that you want.
I think that's an excellent question. The first question a solopreneur should ask themselves and have a real solo debate is, what is my objective with this? Is my objective side income, side hustle, so they say, with a lifestyle that I want? Or am I going for the empire? And what is that exit then? I think that is an excellent first step for most solopreneurs. One I never discussed. I just started, and wherever it took me, and my personality was going to lead me there anyway. Once you've got attention, and how do you keep the engine running? Once, like you said, help, and we know that that means whether it's independent contractors, accountants, etc. But what about tools? What is the tech stack and the tools of productivity? I mean, things are different now with AI, of course. What, over the course of your solopreneur career and currently, do you consider a critical, essential tech stack of tools to stay a successful solopreneur?
Yeah, it will vary depending on the type of business you have. For me, having a really good record keeping system is key. And, I use right now, QuickBooks is something that I'm using. I've been using it forever. That's not going to be right for every business, depending on the size. But for me, it has allowed me to really look at expenses on a daily basis, categorize them quickly and easily to make sure that I've got all of my reporting done when tax time rolls around. I'm not somebody that likes to play catch up. I like to have things caught up, as we go. And so for me, that's allowed me to stay on top of bookkeeping, just making sure that I really am taking advantage of every deductible expense. I can look at reports really quickly and easily. Also, a great business bank account. This is often overlooked, but if you're paying fees or you have a system that is not user-friendly or mobile-friendly, you probably need to find a better bank because there's some great options out there. They can also help you with business lines of credit, helping you with things like sweep accounts if that's something that you need. Just all kinds of business options and financial products are out there. A lot of solopreneurs will start out mingling the personal and the business in the beginning.
Good point. Great
which
point.
They shouldn't do. It's very tempting to do, but if you can separate the business from the personal, you're going to be so much more organized and better prepared when tax day rolls around. And it's going to be easier to see where's your revenue coming from and be better prepared with reporting. So separating that, if you can, is really wise.
When you're looking at those statements, you have it all already in one space. Those are my business expenses. Those are my personal expenses. How do I know that? Well, that's on my personal card and that's on my business card. Same thing with the bank account. One thing you mentioned about one word, sweeps. Cash management and a liquidity ladder. I need money. I need cash immediately from the ATM. I need cash in 3 days. I need cash in a month, or I need cash even not as fast. And then getting the yield of that. If you're a successful solopreneur and you do have significant amount of cash, putting that cash to work while you're operating your business on an hourly, daily basis is also important and also overlooked. I don't think I asked, but looking back, I'm going to ask again if I have. Looking back, is there something you wish you did differently? Is there something you wish you knew that you obviously know now, since you've been doing this since 2007 and you are an expert? But let's say 2009, you may have made a decision that now you're like, I wish I knew this differently.
For me, I think probably starting earlier. I really wish I had begun my solopreneur journey a little earlier. Also, really getting serious about funding self-employed retirement account as well.
Thank you.
My SEP IRA, I love, and do everything I can every year to max it out. But getting that up and running from day one, I did not do that from day one. So I think I would have started that a little bit earlier. So really thinking through, not only do I want to build my business, but I want to build my personal finances as well. So that's something I always encourage folks to think about. We wear a lot of hats when we are in business for ourselves, and we can forget that now we're responsible for our retirement. We don't have an employer matching, our contributions. Right. It all falls on us. And so we really have to be disciplined and diligent about funding it aggressively.
Interesting. Well, that's music to our ears, my ears at Noyak, because that's our business when it comes to both education and the access to financial products like a solo 401k, SEP IRA, or traditional. Yeah, I couldn't agree with you more. Same thing, by the way. I have a few regrets. Maybe I'm a little bit older, but I think one of my regrets is not starting the 401k, the Roth 401k, and any of the tax optimized accounts much earlier, much earlier. I only have kids now and they have 529s, but all of the options, and there are many: health, education, retirement. There are so many underutilized tax optimized accounts that for people who are earning a lot of income, whether it's solopreneur or W-2. So I agree with you 1000% about thinking early on tax optimized accounts, specifically retirement. That's great. Where do you see the future of solopreneurship? I'll ask this in two parts. What changes have you seen recently, and what do you think will change further?
Well, certainly since the pandemic, we've seen an absolute explosion of one-person businesses, of solopreneurs. And I think it really came down to, a lot of people losing work, needing income, and getting scrappy, and we have seen those business creation numbers slow a bit, in recent years, but they're still very impressive. And I think it's going to continue. We're going to see more and more people forming solo businesses. Many people have day jobs and are also doing solo businesses at night and on the weekends. So I don't see that trend changing. I think it's only going to grow stronger. There's so many opportunities, whether it's working with a ride sharing company or a delivery app. There's just more opportunities to work for yourself, to create business income, I think, than ever. So it really does bode well for folks. And if you've got that business income, remember, not only can you invest in the 401k at work, but you can also have a self-employed retirement plan. So I try to help people understand you can invest in more than one retirement account if you've got multiple types of income. So that is going to increase. And so I see more people having more choices when it comes to retirement. And, we don't know what the future of Social Security holds. We know it's likely going to be there. Maybe the benefits will be reduced a little bit, but folks really have to plan more than ever for their own comfortable retirement. And if Social Security is there, well, goodness, that's gravy on top of, what we create and build for ourselves. So I do see more solopreneurship, and I really see people needing, whether they will, I don't know, but needing to take more control of their financial future, and just ensuring you're going to have a healthy, happy future. That's key for us more than ever.
So you can't rely on big mama company, and you can't rely on big daddy country government. And that's why solopreneurship is exploding. This is rely on yourself. It's about resilience and self-reliance. And that's the message of solopreneurship. Anything in the tactics of solopreneurship, the style, the type, adoption, I completely agree with you. The frequency, the volume of solopreneurs is increasing. Are they changing the way they're doing it? Is there a way to style it differently?
I do think, as you mentioned, we have more access to apps, to, electronic aids, whether it's AI or just various digital platforms online to help us do work better and faster. I do think that solopreneurship is more accessible because we have more tools that allow us to do various aspects of our work more automatically. And that's probably going to continue to increase as well. And, as you mentioned, AI is going to change the landscape for many types of businesses. So, yeah, I do think it's more likely that people will be able to rely on fewer people maybe they'll rely more on digital apps and tools to perform certain aspects of their business. And that's great. Maybe, it's not so great for certain workers, but we can all adapt as technology changes. And if you are in a business where you see let's say your market share growing smaller and smaller because of technology, it's a great time to pivot, branch out. What other services can you offer, perhaps, that technology won't be able to disrupt? Thinking about your business a little differently could be a way to make sure that you survive the future successfully.
Do you use AI?
I use it every day.
Okay, you already anticipated my next question was how much. And so it's embedded in what you do. I just read an article about the foregoing of college. I'm not advocating that at all. I'm over degreed with multiple degrees, so I'm not going to say you should forget it. But skill trades, the advocacy of considering trades, whether it's HVAC, plumbing, electrician, versus the investment in long-term higher education. So if that happens, those are forms, they are solopreneurs if you're an individual electrician, plumber, HVAC engineer, etc. Is there a different type of solopreneurship that is focused on trades, almost the boring business type of solopreneurship type of thing? Have you seen that, and do you have experience?
You can definitely consider yourself a solopreneur if you are a one person business as a service provider. So absolutely, you could be that plumber or that electrician that's doing work totally on your own. I've been remodeling my house recently using a lot of those types of service providers, and they're paid very well. And as you mentioned, there is nothing wrong with having those skills and abilities. If you're I would say you're a good marketer. If you feel confident marketing yourself, you can rule a local marketplace having those types of skills and abilities.
Wow. That's interesting. We don't have enough time to touch on the marketing aspect of solopreneurship and how that is very critical. And maybe some people might have the skills for whatever job they choose or whatever, but if they cannot sell themselves, and sales is some might say it's genetic, some might say it's learned, but if you can't get it, then no matter how good a plumber you are, if no one knows it, you're not going to survive. So that's another interesting part of the solopreneurship. It's not just hanging a shingle out there; it's the bullhorn as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
Interesting. Okay, listen, I really enjoyed this, and Laura, you have a new listener on the Money Girl podcast. That's a wrap for this edition of Access Granted, the financial education podcast. Huge thanks to Laura D. Adams for breaking down the real playbook of solopreneur success, including her own. If today's conversation sparked ideas, don't stop here. Subscribe to our newsletter, Noyac Wealth Weekly, ranked #1 in personal wealth management with 110,000 subscribers. And you can find it at We Are Noyac, that's Noyack, wearenoyac.com. Come join the fun and upskill yourself. Laura, thank you.
Thank you so much. Bye, everybody.